Welcome back. We're going to continue our discussion of Excel, and this video will begin our work with tables. Things that we're going to talk about in this particular video are the planning and structure of tables, how to freeze and unfreeze rows and columns, creating a basic table, giving that table a name, formatting the table, and then we want to do adding and finding and editing and deleting records in that table. And finally, we'll finish this video with sorting the data using a one-column, multi-column, or a custom list. The file that you'll be using for this exercise is called Museum. So go ahead and pause, go find the Museum workbook, open it up, and then I'll see you right back in a moment. Great. I'm glad you're back. So, as with all of our workbooks, we want to get in the habit of creating our documentation page. So we're going to have our created by. So put our name in here and enter. And let's use the date. You can enter today's date or some other thing. You can use a function. As you know, my favorite is the today function. So I'm going to enter that. And here we go. Alright, so let's click on the art collection sheet and let's talk about this for a moment. So what we have here is a worksheet of information. That information's been organized for us based upon things that the author of the worksheet thought was important and that the information that they wanted to track. So we look here, we have an ID column, the artist, a title of the work, when it was acquired, what type of item of art it is, and the condition, and where it's located, and then a value. So these would be, think of it as an inventory of sorts. So we have this area, and we call this a structured range of data because it has, if you notice here, we have our row 1. Those are all headings, so it's very organized with what they did. They put a lot of planning into this, and we look at this, and we just call this a structured range of data. And at the moment, it's just a list, but we're going to create a table with that. And that'll be a lot easier too. When we're planning these things, oftentimes we want to use a piece of paper and plan out what we would want to do. We would want to determine the fields and the records that we would need and the things that would make us helpful. Remember, we've talked about it before. If we plan ahead of time for our databases and our workbooks, it makes life a lot easier because we're not going back and forth with creating new things. We're just manipulating the data once it gets there. So once we get all of this data in here, what can we do with it? Well, we can do a lot of things. We can add, we can edit, we can delete data, we can sort it, we can filter it, looking for certain criteria. We can do formulas that calculate subtotals, and we can create summary tables that give it to us too. Those we usually use pivot tables, which will be another video. So we want to make things effective as we're doing this. So keep these things in mind as you go. You want field names that are at the top of your range, top row of your range. So that means that we're going to create things in a horizontal pattern versus a vertical pattern. So if you notice here our row 1, right? Those are our field names that we have. We want them to be short, we want them to be descriptive. Shorter names are easier to remember, and it allows us to have more things shown on our active page. If we made really long names, we may not be able to see all of our all of the data that we're looking for at one time. You want to create field names, as we call these header rows and field names. We want to create these column titles. That's another way of thinking about it, so that we can distinguish it, that it's a header row from the data. We'll format these things so it looks a little bit different than the rest of our structured data as we go through here. You want to put the same kind of data for a particular field in each record. So, you know, for example, if you have a state, you wouldn't put the city in there. You would create a new field for a city. Things like that. And, you know, it just makes it easier to work with. All right, so here we go. We're going to get moving on this. Now, you remember moving around in Excel is kind of easy. We can click over here somewhere, and if we want to go to what we call the home cell of the sheet, that is typically A1. So we can simply press on the control button and the home button, and that'll instantly bring us back here. And so that's very handy. So let's go to our control and go to our cell A1. And the first thing we want to do is called freezing rows and columns. If you notice right now, if I scroll down, I don't know what my titles are anymore across here, right? I would have to remember that, oh yeah, this is the date acquired, this is the condition, this is where it's located. But someone who's not familiar with the sheet may not, you know, recall that. So we can freeze this top row here for us, which is very easy to do, and it's kind of fun. The way we're going to freeze it is we're going to click on our View tab, and you'll notice over here in the Windows group we have a button that says Freeze Panes. If we click on that, we can simply say, oh, look what I can have. So it keeps things visible. So you see I have several options that we can do. Well, for us, we only want to do the top row. So we can click on the Freeze Top Row. And now, as you notice, if I scroll, it doesn't matter how far I scroll down, that header row or our field name row always stays at the top. So that makes it very, very good. To unfreeze it, we simply go back here and we say unfreeze. And it's back to normal again. So as we've been talking about, this is a list of data. Now we want to create a table. And when we create a table, it simply allows us to do more things. It's very quick and very easy to do this. We can add new rows and columns to our table that automatically expand the range. We can add total rows that will let us do things like sum, average, count, minimum, maximum, those functions that we've used in the past. And another really cool thing that we can do is if we add a formula in one cell, it's automatically copied to all of the other cells in that column. So it makes our time, you know, before we were having, if we kept this as a list, we would have to enter our formula or our function, what have you, and then we would have to copy it down to all the other cells in the list for it to be active. Well, not here. If we have a table, we simply enter that formula or function and the entire column gets filled automatically for us. So that's a real time saver that we have. We can also, when we're using a table, we can create reference cells. We've talked about using absolute cell references, relative cell references, and mixed cell references. Well, now we can use things, because we have a table, we can use column names instead of a specific cell address. So all of these things, by using an Excel table, it lets us focus on analyzing and understanding this data, which, you know, saves me a whole lot of time. All right, so let's create our first table. Let's do that. Okay, we want to go up here and we want to find the first active cell that's in the range of our data. Now remember, I said range of the data. I did not say go to the home cell, right? If I said home, that would be A1. But that's our what? Those are our names. Those are our column names. So we're actually going to go to cell A2. All right, and this is very high tech here. We go to Insert, Table. Boy, that was tough, wasn't it? Now, here's what's interesting. You see that it already comes up and it says Create Table. And it says, where is your data? This is very, very, very Very, very important. And this is where people mess up. Okay, you notice I have a dotted line that goes around my data. Scroll down a little bit and make sure only that data is there. Big difference, isn't it? Yeah. You always want to have, in a perfect world, when you have your data, you want to have a blank row and a blank column around it. Sometimes we can do that and sometimes we can't. And the other important thing here is what? You see this little checkbox? My table has headers. That means it knows to go up here and grab this first row, and it's going to make it headers for us. But let me show you what the mistake is that people make first. So I'm going to just watch. Don't do this at home, but I want you just to watch something for me for a moment. I'm going to cancel out of here. So now I'm back to my list. If you see, I'm clicked inside my data at this point. So it knows when I tell it to make a table to grab that section of data, and then I confirm that data. What happens if I'm over here and I say insert table? You see, where is the data? It doesn't know. It can't find it. So you would have to find another way of creating your table. What happens if I say I'm on A1, our home? If I say table, it picks it up pretty good there too, doesn't it? But out of habit, we always want to click on our actual data and the information and insert our table. And again, we're going to check it. We're going to make sure that it has everything we want, and we say OK. So we've just created our first table. Now, you'll notice that because we have a table, we have some things that are new and different. We have little elevator buttons next to each of our field names or our column titles. We have a new tab up here called Table Tools Design that allows us to do a lot of things that we want to do as well. So let's hit Control Home to make our A1 cell active. And you'll see that we do a lot of things. Now let's scroll down and see what happens. Right now we're at the top of our table and we say column A, art ID, B, artist. If I scroll down, look what happens. Those column letters disappear and I have simply the titles of them. And I can scroll all the way down through my data and we have that. And we scroll back up and then it appears. So we want to give our table a name. If you notice on our Table Tools Design, we have the properties over here in our table. And it has a table name. If we simply click in this box, we can give it a new name. So let's call it Art Objects. Remember, no spaces. Utilize your capitalizations and lowercase to do that. Type that and press your Enter key, and now our table has a name. We can format our table very easily. If we come over here again on our Table Tools tab, we go to Table Styles. We can click on More, and let's go down to, you see we can highlight. That gives us a quick preview of anything that we might change. Let's go over here and choose medium number 4. So that's going to change that to green. Alright, now just like we formatted column width before, we can still do that with the table. So we want to change the column of column D. We want to make that 12 characters. So you remember we just highlight it, right click it, change it. And then we want to do E, F, and H. Remember, to select non-adjacent columns, you're going to hold down your Control key. And then we simply right-click again, go to column width, and we say, what do we want? We want 12 characters for there as well. Enter 12. Alright, and then let's go back to our home cell, so Control Home, and we're back in our A1. Alright. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to work on, is we're going to add records, we're going to find records, we're going to edit records, and we're going to delete records. Alright? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add records. How do we add a new record to an Excel table? Well, first of all, we want to get to the bottom of the table. I could do it by scrolling. If I have a short table, I can do it that way. But I can also do it by a keystroke. If I push the end button and the down arrow, it should bring us all the way down to our last cell. There we go. So if we're in the A1, and you see that that brings me to, I can scroll up here and you can see that that is the last entry in my table. So we're going to add a couple records. So we are going to click in cell 117, A117, and we're going to put 116. Now to add things and go across, remember we're going to use our tab key. We're not going to use our enter key until we are done adding all of our records. So we're going to say 116. The next is Giamma. The title of the work is Starry Night. The date acquired is April 3rd, 2013. It is a painting. You notice I just hit the letter P there and it automatically brings up that painting. If I do, at this point, I can simply hit the tab key and it'll automatically fill it for me. So I can hit E for excellent, and I can hit S for the South Pavilion, and it's worth $8,500. Remember, we're at the last of our row, but we want to add one more record, so we're going to hit our tab key again. That brings us to row 118, and now we're going to say item number 117. Higgins is our artist. The title of this one is called Apache Warrior. The date we're acquiring it is April 5th, 2013. It's a sculpture, so I can hit the letter S and tab. It's in excellent condition, so the E and tab. And it's located in the garden, so that's a G and tab, and $23,000. Now, this is the last thing that I want to enter of my rows, so now I can hit enter, and that takes me out of my table. Now if you accidentally hit tab and it brings you down, you're still in your table, you would just hit undo to get rid of that and to fix yourself. Alright, I will give you a moment to catch up on those two entries. Great. Alright, now we're going to find and edit a record. So let's go back up to the top, and so we say Control Home, and we're back up at the top. We can click in C2, Red Rock Mountain, to make that the active cell. And now we want to go find something. And the way we find it, the easiest way is simply on our Home tab, we go over to Find and Select, and we say Find. You can also do Control F to find if you like. And what are we going to find? We are going to look for something called Moonlight. So we type Moonlight in the search box and say Find Next. And this will find us the first instance of Moonlight. Now if there's more than one, or it's not the one that you would want, you would simply say Find Next. But this is the one we want, so we can say Close. We'll close our search box, and now we're going to change the condition from fair to poor. So we simply tab over to there, we type the letter P and tab, and that takes care of it. So now we have changed what we've done. If we go back up to the top by saying Control Home, we're back up in our top area. Let's find something else. Let's find another record that has 90 in it. So we're going to say Find. So this time I'm going to use Control F. It brings up the last thing that I searched for. And then you notice it's darkened, so I don't have to do anything. I can just hit 90 here. So I want to find all instances of 90. So I'm going to say Find Next. Well, that's not what I'm looking for, because I'm looking for Art ID equals 90, not $1,900 on a value. So we hit Find Next. That's another $1,900 value. Ah, there we go. Record number on row 91, we have art ID 90. That's the one that I'm looking for. So now I can say close. All right, now we've deleted rows before, but remember, we're working with a table, so we want to do it a little bit differently. And you want to make sure that you have the right row or the right column selected when you get ready to delete something, because it doesn't ask you, are you sure? All right, so what we're going to do here is we're on our Home tab. We're going to go in our Cells group, and we've got Delete. So we say Delete, and what do we want to do? We can delete a cell, we can delete a worksheet row or a column from our worksheet, or you notice we have two new things since we're working with a table. We can delete the table row or the table column, or we can delete the whole worksheet. So choose carefully, and we are going to delete the table row. Ta-da! Bye-bye. And that's all done. So let's go back up to our top again, Control Home. Now let's work on some sorting of items. So we can sort a lot of ways. We can sort by a single column. We can sort by multiple columns, which are primary and secondary sort fields, or we can sort by custom lists that we design. So the first thing let's go through is how are we going to sort by the artist's name. So we simply can click what? The easiest way, we're going to click on any cell here in our artist column. We're going to go to the Data tab on our ribbon, and we're going to say Sort A to Z. Ah, you are right. We can also do it by clicking on the elevator right here too. Sort A to Z. They both work that way, don't they? Right? So we have two different ways. You can go Data in your sort, or you could click simply on your column here. So a couple different ways you can do it and look at it. Alright, but if I want to do multiple columns, I can't do it that way. That's how I can sort a single column. So what I have to do instead is in my data group, I now have to click on the Sort button. So if I click on the Sort button, now it brings up a dialog box, and we can do multiple fields. We call those levels. Alright, so what do we want to do first? We want to sort by, you see this, the column? We want to sort by location. So we can come down here and choose location. You want to sort it on values. And we want to sort it by what? We'll just leave that as A to Z. Alright. So then that's our primary sort. That's the thing it looks at first. If I want to sort the next level, I simply say add a level. And now I want to sort it by artist. So I'm going to say choose my by to artist. I'm going to keep my values, and I'm going to keep it A to Z alphabetical. Let's add a third column. Let's choose it by, let's see, date acquired. That's a good category. Date acquired. And we want to change our order to newest to oldest. Alright, so we've got 3 different sorts. You can actually add up to 64 different sorting levels, but most people only sort by 2 or 3 things. Alright, we say OK, and you'll notice we now have it sorted by location. See, our location is all here. Right? Everything in the east, then we go to the garden, and we go to west. And within our location, what's the next thing that we did? We did it by artist, and then we did it by date acquired. So you can see, you can also see if you look here at your row columns, each little has an arrow on it now, right? In addition to the little elevator tab. So it tells you what we've done here. Let's just sort everything by condition though. So we can do that, and we can click on the condition cell, and if we go to our data tab in the sort and filter group, and we click on condition sort A to Z. Now we've got everything sorted by condition: excellent, fair, and good. So what is that and poor? So that is alphabetical that way, right? E, F, G, P. Well, that's all well and good, but sometimes the words that we want to sort by are not things that are necessarily in alphabetical order. And so what we can do then is we can create a custom list. So we can do that as well. In this direction, how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to use our sort button again in the data, right? Sort, and now we're going to say, yes, I want to sort it by condition, I want to sort it by values, but my order is a custom list. So we select custom list. Here are some choices that it has for us. You see that I already have excellent, good, fair, and poor. We're going to delete this for a moment so that you don't see that. So if I don't see in my custom list a sort order that I want, I can create a new list. So I click on new list, and now over here in list entries I have my cursor. So I want to type excellent because I want that to be first. Then I hit my enter key. Then I want it to say, I guess next would be good, enter, fair, enter, and poor. Because that's really kind of the sequence of how we would look at our condition, right? If we're looking at, is it nice or is it not so nice? So once I have that list in there, I simply say add, and it adds it over here to my custom list on the left. You can see different ones. And so we will select it, excellent, good, fair, poor. We say OK, and now you notice the order now tells me what it is, and I say OK. So I've now sorted that. You see I have the little sort button there, and if I scroll down it says excellent, good, fair, and poor. Alright, so we've created an Excel table, we've named it, we formatted the table, we updated the table by adding a couple of items, we've edited an item, we deleted a record, and then we sorted the records and we created a custom list to sort by the condition field. So that sounds pretty good, like a nice place to stop. I will see you in the next video. And don't forget to save your file.